Like that did not come naturally. Like I spent months overnight in a 1-bedroom apartment, set up the whole thing into a studio. My wife was sleeping. I was making noise, like doing 100 takes, like 100 takes of this video, like, and then watching it and then asking people for feedback and asking people to criticize it and then watching it again myself and then doing another take and another take, like 100 takes. So when a person sees the final product, and this is how it is in every business, when you interact with anybody who's doing anything well, you don't see people have this weird bias. Like you tend to assume that somebody else's success came naturally to them, and it's harder for them to do the same thing.
Hello and welcome to the Who's Going to Stop Me podcast. Join us on an exciting journey to the depths of the human mind and soul of those who have been successful, of those who have been maybe where you want to go. I promise you one thing and one thing only by listening to this podcast, and that is a life that is more full, that is more exciting, and that will bring you more fulfillment. This episode features brilliant marketer and brilliant mind Isaac Rudansky. Isaac Rudansky has run some of the best-selling digital marketing courses on Udemy, reaching millions of people worldwide. Yes, that's right. Millions of people have subscribed to his courses on Google Ads, on Facebook Ads, on conversion rate optimization, just to name a few topics. He now runs a talent-rich boutique agency out of New York. They have clients such as Forbes Magazine, and they manage millions and millions of dollars every single month in ad spend. We talk about Instagram influencers. We talk about digital campaigns for your business and how to grow your business more quickly. We talk also about Isaac's inspiring journey of how he started in a 1-bedroom apartment in New York and how he hustled his way to becoming an internet marketing guru. So it was a brilliant conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Let's learn, let's grow, and let's do this. Enjoy. When did you start marketing, and when did you feel like, okay, this is where I'm really going to devote a lot of my kind of energy and my thoughts and my business? And
That's a great question, and it's a story that I've told quite a bit over the last few years. I got into marketing in general, or digital advertising, let's say more particularly, let's say maybe almost 6 years ago now, I would say. I was recently married for about a year. My wife was working as an accountant at Deloitte. She really didn't like it, and I was painting. So I have a background in art, and I was doing a decent job selling some of the artwork, and I was invited to exhibit at a number of festivals on Long Island, and I had a couple different gallery showings here and there. But I realized that if I wanted to sell my artwork, I had to have it online, and I didn't have a website. I wasn't computer illiterate, but technologically, digital marketing, no idea what any of it was. Like at the time, I didn't even know there was such a thing as advertising on Google. And fast forward 4 years, I've spent basically every day doing that for over 500 companies around the world. So I didn't even know that such a thing existed. So I decided I needed to have my artwork on a website, and I didn't know what that would entail. I thought that making a website was something that only like really, really advanced people could do. And like I sort of was calling around, asking for advice, doing some research online. And I heard an ad actually on the radio, which is ironic, for Squarespace, which 5 or 6 years ago was pretty new company. They've grown enormously over the last few years. But for those of you who don't know what Squarespace is, it's one of these online website template builder galleries. You could, without writing any code, you could build your own website, make it look really pretty. They have a bunch of really nice, well-designed templates. That's sort of where Squarespace carved out their niche, is like the quality of the designs of their templates. And I was like, listen, the radio ad is saying that anybody can make a website. I highly doubt that. It sounds very suspicious, but let me give it a shot. So I sat down in my armchair in our tiny 1-bedroom apartment, and probably 15 hours later, without getting up, I had a website, and that was like this very, very exciting feeling. I told a lot of people about it, and it was really cool. And then I started thinking, okay, like how will I get people to see this website? And that led me down a wormhole of online marketing, learning about SEO, learning about Google AdWords, learning about Facebook advertising, but I would say primarily Google AdWords. Like that was what was really exciting to me. It was like, wow, I was like, I could in minutes have my website showing up on the top of Google search results for people looking to buy oil paintings, right? So like that was like a really, really exciting thing. And I started learning everything I could learn about Google AdWords. I spent a few days just sort of researching and running some like really preliminary campaigns. And it was like this very exciting thing for me to discover. And after a little while, I was like, listen, like I'm more excited about this stuff than my artwork, or let's say like at that time, and maybe I could make money, teaching people how to do this. And I had only been doing this for 3 days or 4 days, and I was like, okay, I've learned a lot, and I could probably give over some strategies or some ideas and help people understand what's really going on with Google AdWords. And I made a second website on Squarespace that I was going to advertise services to teach people how to do it. And I got a couple small clients, and then I realized that like people probably want me to just do it for them. So like more of that agency / freelancer model. And I started doing that. And like my first client was my father. He's a doctor. It wasn't even Google AdWords. It was like, make me a LinkedIn profile. I was like, okay, $500. And then my friend's father was the next client. So like for a good 6 months, I was doing any work that I can get my hands on. So we did little, so Squarespace websites. We helped companies with their Yelp pages, and helped out with LinkedIn profiles, and like really the most random things. And then slowly but surely we got an AdWords client, and it was really round the clock work for me. But even though I was working like very intense hours, during the day I was servicing the handful of clients that I had. At night, I was working on my own website. And when I say work on my own website, I was basically trying to copy pixel for pixel other websites of agencies that I liked, trying to pretend that like we were actually an agency when it was me and my kitchen table. And so like I don't know exactly when I started taking it seriously, but over time, then a little while later, I hired one person and working out of my apartment, and I put up a tutorial video on YouTube that now has about 1 million views, and that was a popular thing. And like people were calling to our office from the YouTube tutorial, like ready to give us their credit card, like here, do it for me. And we were charging very cheap prices back then, or the royal we. I was charging very cheap prices back then, but it was like still this fun, crazy, strange thing that like strangers were calling and offering me money. And I really liked that, and as people would typically would. So so like I probably after like a year and a half, I was like, okay, like maybe I'm not, maybe. And I also, side point, at the time I was at a master's program for industrial organizational psychology at Hofstra University. So it was either like maybe get a job in human resources or some sort of consulting, and like that wasn't really appealing to me. And I was like, at a certain point, I was like, listen, maybe this could be a real business. And over time, we started hiring, started getting better clients, moved to our first office, moved to our second office, and now we're about 20 people. It's still day to day, and there's ups and there's downs, and there's difficult clients and there's good clients, and there's a lot that I'm learning on the fly about managing team members and managing clients and finding new business and figuring out how to turn down business that you don't want to take. So there are many different elements, but at its core, we're a digital advertising agency. So we focus on PPC management, so Google Ads, Facebook, search advertising. We do a lot of influencer marketing now over the last year, since it's been a very hot topic, and that's something we could talk about if you'd like. And we do a lot of Facebook advertising. We do some programmatic advertising, some remarketing, and then like for our bigger clients, we'll get involved in some other things that they ask us to get involved with. For example, a few months ago, a client of ours calls me up and says, I took out billboards in Times Square, California, Chicago, and do you want to design the billboard? So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And like, even though that doesn't necessarily fall under the typical purview of our services, it's certainly not something that we advertise, and it's not something that I claim to know how to do, even now after doing it. but it's, you know, we have that sort of attitude. It's a very small company. We're all pretty flexible, pretty independent thinkers by and large, and intelligent people. So there's, you know, that's getting involved in a little bit recruiting process. But yeah, that's basically how I got started.
Wow. Okay. Quite a journey from, you know, trying to sell your art all the way to now designing like these huge billboards that are going all over the country. That's pretty inspiring. And like 6 years, that's not a long time to have accumulated the success and knowledge that you have. Like when I was watching your videos, I was like, you know, this is someone that's been like doing this from, I don't know, as early as they can read, or, you know, so I
Right.
was,
That's part of the marketing. You know, you have to make it, but you have to fake it along the way.
So I did take a look at Adventure PPC, and I have to say, I mean, from the outside, and you know, given all that you've said, it looks like a world-class agency. And I know the word on your website, it says neurotic a lot. So I know that there are many agencies, and they all have kind of different, you know, unique selling points and different angles. What would you say that really differentiates, you know, how do you differentiate yourself in kind of a marketplace where, because I feel like I see a lot of, you know, these ads, I get targeted with so many ads on like Facebook and Instagram where it's saying like, start your 6-figure agency and, you know, you can do this. Like, for me, it feels like agency is kind of like the hot thing to do right now. And obviously you've been doing successfully way before this ever became a trend. How would you say you differentiate yourself?
So that's a good question, because in the service business, it's not always easy to differentiate. Well, I guess in any business, it's not always easy to differentiate yourself, especially when there are a lot of competitors. So there's a couple things that I don't know if we're unique in, but I think it's what helps us. I think it's what really helps us succeed and develop a track record of success. So the first thing is education. So I don't know if any other agency has educated. I mean, there are some other like people out there and some other figureheads out there that are very heavily focused on education. But you know, over 1 million people have watched my free training. Over 130,000 students from around the world have enrolled in my full-length courses. So it's a significant amount of education, and the majority of our clients come to us through being exposed to our educational content. So that's something which is unique, where we're not doing any cold calling, nothing like that. It's clients that are coming to us. So for example, Forbes Magazine is a client of ours, and their director of digital marketing was watching my course and they reached out. So like that's a typical progression of how new potential clients are introduced to us. And that's the name of the game. Like really it's about like finding clients and retaining clients. Like that's the most difficult thing. And the second thing is, I would say, the relationships we develop with our clients. So even in the early days, economically, what we were doing made no sense because we were charging clients very little, but we were giving them an unbelievable amount of attention. So now, thankfully, we are lucky enough to charge clients a lot more, and we could afford economically to give them the attention we give them. But that was something we always did, right? So it was never like an agency where we were just doing the same heuristic routine tasks over and over again without really learning about the client's business, learning about who our clients are, taking the time to really develop relationships with them. So I would say that that's something we really try to focus on. And like if you read up on the Madison Avenue advertising days, like the original agencies there, like that's how business went around. Like people, like everyone had real relationships with their clients. They knew about their families. They knew about, you know, milestones in their lives, and they knew very, very, very much about the businesses they were advertising. So we're not replicating that to that extent, but we really do try to, let's say, meet all our clients face to face. We'll fly and meet our clients. We go out to dinners with our clients. We visit our clients at their offices. Our clients visit us at our offices. So there's that as well, which I think differentiates us. And I think it's also just the quality of our team. Like we're you know, I'm not ashamed to say it that I have an elitist attitude towards hiring. Like I'm looking to hire intelligent people. I'm looking to like above average intelligence. I'm looking to I'm looking to hire people who have a lot of integrity and a lot of energy. And that's not to say that people who don't have any of those three attributes are bad people. They're just not people that I want to hire. So there's that too. And I mean, that's not something we necessarily advertise to our clients, but I think that just is apparent as things develop with our clients and as prospects are speaking to us in the proposal stage of the relationship, that, you know, we have high level insights, a high level of intelligence, and a high level of energy that's being brought to the table with every relationship.
Definitely. Yeah, I definitely think like the education element is something that it's rare to see, because you see a lot of agencies and they might have a blog, but they haven't really taken it to the extent that, say, you have, you know, being a best-selling you know, teacher on like Udemy, for example. And that your courses have been seen by like hundreds of thousands of people, right? Maybe even millions, I'm not sure. But yeah, like I can totally see why all of
And I would say one more thing. I would say one more thing on the idea of education, like not only the courses, but even like the blog. Blogs are very overdone, and it's hard to make an impact with a blog. But one of our team members, our director here, Patrick Gilbert, he wrote a couple blog posts about Google automation and how that's changing the landscape of paid search. And it actually got a lot of buzz internally at Google. And we didn't promote it to Google, like they just found it. So Google called him and invited him to come speak at Google's headquarters in New York to their agency liaison team that works with other digital advertising agencies, basically, I guess, training Google's own team how to encourage other agencies to use more automation. And this coming Sunday, I'm flying with Patrick to London, to Google's headquarters there in the UK, to give over the same training to actual agencies in London. So like the Google event is inviting agencies to come to Google's offices, and Patrick's one of the speakers at that event, really on the basis of just a blog post, right? So like if somebody spends time, and like this is just random advice, unsolicited advice to anyone who's listening, it's worth it to spend time on content. Like there's nothing more, well, the best thing you could possibly get is a word of mouth referral from a friend. Okay, but those are in short supply. The next best thing is developing trust and authority through good content. And good content is very, very, very hard to do, because it just takes a lot of time and a lot of thought and a lot of energy. But it's in my opinion well worth it. If you're in the type of business that's selling a service, and you're not selling a commodity, which would require a different marketing strategy altogether, but developing good content could go a long way.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And one of the things that I always say to people is, it doesn't matter what business you're in. If you're giving value to people up front, you know, people are going to look to kind of reciprocate, either, you know, whether that is like signing on to the agency that you're starting or running, or whether that is, you know, it really applies to almost any business. If you give value, you know, blogs, videos, free samples, whatever it may be, like people are going to look to, and they're going to feel indebted almost. And I think it's not always even a conscious, because they might not need your service right now. If, let's say, someone's just starting a business and they start one of your courses and it's great, but they don't have the budget, maybe a couple years down the line, and I'm sure you've experienced this, they're going to think, oh, I need to hire a PPC agency. Who should I call? And they'll go, oh, I did that great course, or I read that great blog, or I watched that video by that Isaac guy. And that's when they're going to come, and that's going to create kind of this almost snowball of momentum. So I think you make a really good point. In terms of, like, let's talk more about the advice, because I think you touched on some really good points there. You know, building trust and authority through releasing really great content. And it's, to me, I see that as a real competitive edge, because people can like look at your website and copy some of the copy, or they can look at how you've designed it and maybe copy that, but they can't copy, as you said, like the intelligence behind a business. So do you have any other, I guess, you know, this is a very general question, so feel free to take it wherever you want to, but like fundamental business advice that marketing advice specifically that would really help someone who's looking to start a business in 2019 and they're like, okay, I've got XYZ product that I need to bring to the world, physical product or maybe like a virtual product. And they don't really know whether they should start with, okay, Google pay-per-click, or should I start with Facebook, or should I start just writing blogs or, filming videos? What advice would you give to that person?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's not an easy question to answer because it varies really significantly based on what a person's trying to do, what their goals are, what their product is, what their skills are, right? But I will say I have seen an overall trend where people will get overly excited about the prospects of digital advertising, and they'll neglect to focus on like some fundamental elements that are required in order to sell something. So at a very high level, it's unbelievably difficult to get a stranger to open up their wallet and give you money, right? That's not easy. Like, it looks easy when Amazon does it or other websites do it or when Uber does it, but it's really, really not easy. You have to be very, very, very good. You have to be offering a really, really good product. You have to have a very, very compelling value proposition. You have to have a lot of trust and validity. So there's a lot of glitz and glamour around a Facebook advertising campaign, right? So that you've seen the posts and you've seen the blogs and you've seen the videos. It's like, listen, like all this cheap traffic and all this low-hanging fruit and all this. There's a lot of buzzwords that can easily get people excited about quickly getting a digital advertising campaign up and running, throwing some money at it and expecting some sort of unbelievable return, right? So that's just not how things ultimately will operate. So you have to really take the time to focus on your product, but then also your expertise. So if you're selling a physical product, it's working on your website, it's working on your copy. I just had this conversation with somebody at my company the other day. Like, it's easy to make a landing page look nice and it's easy to make a Facebook campaign. It's very difficult to write good copy. It's very difficult to describe who you're servicing. It's very difficult to describe the benefits of your product to the people that you're speaking to. Like, those things take a lot of thought. They take practice. They take testing, and people are just much more inclined, and this is natural, right? It's natural to gravitate towards the cheap tricks and the cheap thrills. But if you do that, you'll wind up wasting a lot of money on campaigns that won't end up producing results, because what's happening is that you're in a very competitive space, whether it's Google ads or Facebook or anything, any sort of advertising. No matter how well you know the advertising platform and you know all the different tricks, you're still relying on another person buying something from you, right? Whether you're a service or a product. So you have to see that the loop goes all the way through to another person deciding to pay you for something that you sell. And if you're going to get people to buy something from you, you have to really be an expert in your product or service. You have to have given, and there's another trend going now towards, like, people are expecting value before they buy. So, for example, I have these Udemy courses, and it's a pretty low entrance fee to get into those courses, and it's a really, really strong amount of value for what you're getting. And then I have a Facebook group which is free to join, and I give out a lot of content there, and I interact with students there. And then I'm offering a monthly subscription for pretty cheap, somewhere between $7 and $20 a month. And I'm giving out a lot of value there, like weekly lectures, high level stuff. I prepare for them, and it's not a given to make these sales, right? Like, you have to, think about Netflix. Like, Netflix costs what, like $11 a month, $13 a month. Like, imagine how, like, now think about how much content you're getting access to for that fee. Like, what does Amazon Prime cost? Think about how much content you're getting access to for that fee. So you have to really be willing to work very, very hard and over deliver, and develop your own expertise, develop the quality of your content first. So, like, just to answer your question more succinctly, yeah, I would recommend writing a blog first. Writing your blog, creating videos, creating educational content, do the hard work. And I'm not just saying that as a moniker, like that's really what it's going to take. Like if you have some basic product and you think you're going to throw some Facebook ads at it and make a lot of sales, like, okay, maybe 1 in 1,000 it'll hit, but you shouldn't expect that to happen, right? You should be, every night you should be writing a blog. Every morning you should be recording a video. Every week you should be doing a podcast. Like you should be, because those things do 2 things at once. They help you develop your own expertise, and they also help you develop a sense of trust and authority.
Right. You make a really good point in terms of nailing down that value proposition. I think you described it as like a value proposition, and making sure that if you have a product, focus on like having a great product, a great service first, and then you can start advertising it or putting money into it. Don't, as you said, like neglect that really important like fundamental business stuff and just throw money at Facebook advertising because it's or Google or whatever it may be, thinking I'm gonna just be able to sell this, like, and there's nothing behind it, right? That's a bit of a trap. And it made me think about the drop shipping model a little bit. The drop shipping and e-commerce is something that like I've experimented with and had some success with it. But I see, and this less so in I think 2019, but maybe more in 2018. But I still get a lot of ads where I see people selling the same products, rehashing the same videos. And these are like products they found on, say, Alibaba, and they're just literally, copy and pasting someone's ad, editing a little bit of the video, and then selling quite a low quality product with very long lead time. So it's taking 6 weeks plus to reach the actual customer. So they're actually not building brand equity. They're just trying to get that sale. What do you have any thoughts on that whole kind of drop shipping model where people, because I'm sure you've had people that have come to you that have made maybe a lot of money, and I think you can make a lot of money doing drop shipping, but sometimes it can be at the expense of long-term brand value and just building that brand equity?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I personally don't have that much experience with dropshipping myself. I do have some clients that do it, but I'll take it to a little bit of a different angle, where we see a lot of clients that are selling on Amazon and are also selling on their own websites, let's say with Shopify through dropshipping. And you name the product and it's being dropshipped today, as you know. And we have a lot of clients that have come to us in the past that said, like, listen, like we're selling on Amazon really successfully, but Amazon's taking a cut of our money, and we can't we're not able to develop really a brand, and so on and so forth. We want to advertise on our own website, and we're gonna kill it because we're doing well on Amazon. And this goes back to what I'm saying previously. In 9 times out of 10, it's an epic failure, because to get somebody to buy something from you on a website that doesn't have trust, no matter how well your product's priced, is very, very difficult. Amazon's done a very good job at creating an unbelievably secure sense of confidence that the product's going to come. If it doesn't come, I'm going to get my money back. It's going to come on time. It's going to come quickly, right? Like I've bought from them before. So you'll have these companies that are selling really, really, really well on Amazon, very profitable. And then when they try to take the exact same product and the exact same thing off of Amazon onto their own Shopify site and do a drop shipping setup with Facebook ads or Google ads, it's a disaster. So I would say that to me, I think drop shipping is a great model. I've always wanted to try it for myself just to learn more about it. I'm just literally too busy. But it just as a side point, it's actually funny because I sort of have this thing when we hire a new employee, we run a little, not a contest, but it's like sort of a side project that I give employees like $2,000 to start their own dropshipping company. And like, it's a way for them to learn about digital advertising, to learn about Shopify, to learn about selling, to learn their ROI formulas. And then like, if it takes off, if it works, if things start selling, then, Adventure Media, my company, has a stake in the thing. But it's really not meant as a business opportunity. It's really meant as like, here's some money, go spend it as wisely as possible. And every week you're gonna come to us and report on the results and see what you're doing and what you're learning. So that's
actually really cool, because I think one of the best ways that you can learn is like, is not on someone else's dime, is on your own dime, right? Is like through your own money. And I'm sure you experienced that when you were first experimenting with Google Ads and selling your art. And like every click, you're like, oh, that's $5 gone. You know, you kind of feel that pain a little bit, and it really incentivizes you to pay attention to kind of where the money's going. I mean, it makes you realize that this is real money. Like I've got skin in the game, right? I think that's really, really cool. I haven't heard of anyone else of doing that, particularly like for a new starter in the company. I think that's really, really interesting. In terms of marketing trends now, is there anything that you see happening that you think the listeners could capitalize on? Again, that's a very general question, but I mean, do you see any emerging kind of tools or trends or areas opening up? Like, I know that one of your courses is based around the Facebook Messenger chatbots, which have become increasingly popular. Is there anything else that you see, or even in that space, that you would recommend people look into?
I think this is not new, but I think influencer marketing is something that people should really focus on. Traditionally, digital agencies, or like, the smaller digital agencies, will focus on paid search and Google, Facebook. There's a huge shift towards automation, and we could talk about that in a minute, but putting that aside, again, influencer marketing is by no means new, but it's pretty new for us as an agency. Over the last 6 months or so, we started offering it to clients, and we've seen it be really effective with some really interesting results. And just briefly, influencer marketing refers to reaching out to people who have a lot of followers on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, primarily Instagram. That's like, most of influencer marketing lives on Instagram, but not, Facebook and YouTube should not be ignored either. And basically arranging with them some sort of reciprocal relationship to promote their products to their audience. And the reason why influencer marketing is so good is, as its name denotes, is strong influencers have a very, very influential relationship with their audience. So for example, if I go onto my Facebook group and I recommend a book, and I say, like, this is a really, really awesome book that helped me increase the profitability of my Google Ads campaigns, I don't know, 40% of people will probably buy it, right? So that's like a ridiculous conversion rate. If I go on to Facebook and I say, here's like a really nice face cream that I like, no one will buy it, because I don't have any influence over my audience with regards to face creams or beauty products, but I do when it comes to digital advertising. So the idea is, if you're a client or if you're a company, you sell furniture, you sell home goods, or you sell gardening supplies, or whatever it is, you find people, and there's a niche for everything, or you sell gluten-free baked goods, you find influencers, or you find accounts that talk about that sort of thing, that promote those sorts of products, that are being followed by the target audience for your products or your clients' products, and you reach out. So for example, we've been doing this for a couple clients. One of them is a company called Reset IV. They're out in Vegas. They offer IV hydration therapy. And they are very successful with Google Ads, but there's a limit to how it's a relatively new market. Like it's sort of taking off. It's IV hydration therapy for hangovers, for the flu, for rejuvenation, for athletes, etc. And we decided that it would be effective to start reaching out to influencers in Vegas and Miami and New York, like the places that they're operating in. And I thought originally, when we started reaching out, we would have to pay a significant amount of money to get these influencers on board. But it turns out that a lot of these influencers are willing to just take an IV hydration therapy, which costs us very little, in exchange for a post and a tag on their Facebook accounts. And we're not looking for a Kardashian. You're not looking for, top influencers that will charge you $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 for a post. You're looking for micro influencers that have, somewhere between 10 and 30, 50,000 followers, that have a very highly engaged audience. And we're seeing we actually did we did one with an influencer in Miami. I don't know, she has she's like nothing big. She has 20,000 followers, 30,000 followers. That's not huge by any means. And our client said it was a record day of sales. And while tracking sales from influencer campaigns is very, very difficult, you could look at things anecdotally. So you could try to isolate external variables. And then there's all the software that we use. So there's a lot of different software out there that allows you, that's basically like a search engine for Instagram and Facebook. And you pay a monthly fee to access that software, and it scrapes all the accounts, and it tells you, you could search for keywords, and it shows you what's in what people are talking about, and they give you their engagement rates. And then there's other software that predicts whether or not they bought followers. So it's a pretty big industry. And I think it's worth, and I think there's a hesitancy from an agency perspective, because like maybe they feel it's not real advertising. It's more like brokering relationships. But okay, fair enough. But your goal is to make your clients as much money as possible, or your goal is to make yourself as much money as possible. So whether or not it falls under the same creative context of your typical advertising campaign where you're writing copy and you're designing ads, you might like that a lot. Developing a relationship with an influencer could be very, very powerful. And like that's, to me, over the last 6 months, the biggest new trend that I'm excited about.
Yeah, very exciting stuff. Very exciting. Is there any, I guess, tools that you said there was a tool that you use and it can give you an idea of engagement rates and kind of you can see if people bought followers and these sorts of things. Is there any specific tools that you'd recommend for someone who maybe they're listening to this and they go, okay, influencer marketing could be perfect for my business? Is there any tools or that you'd recommend for them?
So there's some free tools out there. I recommend people looking at Social Blade. And most of the paid tools also have free options. So like look at Upfluence, Social Blade. Both of those tools have some free options where you could do a limited search of Instagram accounts. You can get predictive scores of the quality of an account. And that's a really good place to start. But even if you're not going to use any of these softwares, if you want to just start off just to get your feet wet with influencer marketing, just go on Instagram. You could do a search for keywords. You could see which accounts, and you spend a few minutes seeing which accounts are talking about the products and services that you offer. You could see how many followers people have. You could scroll through some posts and get a sense of people's of accounts engagement rates, and it could be a very effective way to get started. And if you want to develop a relationship, you click on the direct message icon in the upper right hand corner, and you send them a message saying, listen, like this is our product, this is our service, it's really exciting for X, Y, and Z reasons. We think you'd be a good person to promote these products for X, Y, and Z reasons. Here's what we're offering, or would you like to open up a conversation and take it from there?
Okay. And would you get them on the phone next? What would kind of be the next step? Obviously, it depends on who the influencer is. And again, this is something that I've dipped my feet a little bit into, but not super hard. So do you get them on the phone? Do you what? Because I find it's kind of hard to know what offer to present them with. So in the case of like the IV therapy, it's something that's, I've only really heard about it a little bit. It's kind of exciting. As you said, it's new. So people might hear that and go, yeah, I just want to try it just for the experience of it. But then you might get something like clothing and you approach them and they say, okay, make me an offer. How would you go about kind of constructing that in terms of, okay, I'm going to offer them XYZ financially to make this post or story or whatever it is?
So like for us, it's basically been email communication. So when you're using a software like Upfluence, a lot of these softwares come with a dashboard that allows you to reach out, and you have email templates, and you can manage multiple relationships at once, and you could put the payments in escrow. So we'll actually start like with that client, because the client offers a pretty exciting product. So a lot of these influencers will be like, wow, cool, like this is a treatment that usually costs $400. That's obviously not the cost of the treatment for the client, but for the customer, it's a $400 treatment. IV hydration therapy, it's very cool. It's very cool to video. So like it's just cool. So we'll first start off offering a free treatment in exchange for a review and a post and a tag. For larger influencers, we'll say, okay, listen, we're open to paying you either per post or a monthly fee for a certain amount of posts. If your client, like we have another client that sells furniture online, and they sell lower to mid-level price point sofa sectionals, love seats, etc. So we'll say, listen, like we'll go to an influencer, like pick any product you want off our website. Like it could be a leather sectional, whatever you want, we'll ship it to you for free. All we're asking you to do is do an unboxing and a review and a post and tag it, like your new couch, things like that. So like I would certainly suggest trying to avoid having to pay out of pocket if you could exchange products in exchange for a review.
Okay.
That would be my first recommendation.
Okay. Fantastic. And before we kind of move on, is there anything, key in terms of influencer marketing that you'd say, okay, watch out for this, or any kind of key mistakes maybe you've made in the past with influencers to maybe help someone, not make that same mistake that potentially you made or that you've seen people making?
Yeah, so I would just recommend not getting don't get overexcited with accounts that have a lot of followers, because oftentimes accounts that have lots of followers who let's say you've never heard of have bought those followers and like use a tool like Social Blade to predict, because like Social Blade would look to see if there's like an unnatural increase over time in followers, and they'll say, okay, it's likely that they're buying followers or whatever. Or if you have a lot of followers and a very low engagement rate, it's also a red flag in the account. But even if you find like a really legitimate influencer that has a high engagement rate, that's a celebrity, those relationships may actually be less profitable than than contracting 10 influencers that have 10 or 15,000 followers. So don't get tricked by the glamour of working with like a celebrity influencer, because fundamentally your goal is to generate sales. And what we found is, and what a lot of other people have found, and if you read up on it, that they'll be more profitable. The relationships will be more profitable if you look for a higher quantity of high quality smaller influencers than a smaller quantity of high quality large influencers.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Let's take a bit of a sidestep now, because I want to maybe dig a little bit more into like your mindset and who you are. So from just talking to you on this call and from watching your videos and courses and kind of seeing what you're doing and just kind of preparing for this interview, essentially, you have like a tremendous energy to you. You seem to be getting a lot done. And not only that, you seem very good at selling yourself. You're good at presenting, almost an infectious energy to you. And I definitely think that's not something that's natural, not to you, but I mean just generally the ability to sell yourself or market yourself. I think some people have it and some people kind of have to like work on it. Where would you say this has come from? Is this something that you've always had as a kid? You were just always had this energy. You're always doing things. You were always like, I'm going to learn AdWords. I'm going to sell my art. And then one thing led to another and you're jumping on every opportunity? Or is this something that maybe you've had to cultivate? Where does this come from? That's what I'm really getting at.
That's another good question. And I appreciate the kind words, but I've always had a lot of energy and I've always had a lot of intensity. So like, when I was in high school, I wanted to learn how to, draw portraits, and I got pretty intense about that. But that intensity also had its downsides, where I would have intense periods of productivity, but then intense periods of complete and utter lack of productivity. And that has plagued me personally over the last 5 years as well, where I'll go through, waves of motivation and energy, and then just like sort of flatline and not be able to produce, and just just feeling very lazy and out of it. And I've been working to keep the level of productivity and intensity high, but more consistent, and that's been a very, very difficult thing for me. But I think the energy aspect has come naturally to me, but the marketing part has not come naturally to me at all. Like I'm very social if I'm with people that I know very well, but I'm very, very bad at introducing myself or talking to strangers. I'm unbelievably uncomfortable with it. I don't like doing it, and there's a big part of needing. You sort of need to do that to market your products well. So my original client calls were really weak, and figuring out how to show excitement for the products and the education was not natural at all. It's just something that took time. So I will say that even when I originally met with clients early on or spoke to clients over the phone, I was very authentic. Like, I came across confident in knowing that I knew what I was talking about, but it took a while to learn how to market my services better, speak with more excitement and enthusiasm. Like, that stuff didn't come as natural to me. So I think I think that's something, learning how to talk and how to, like, the same way you could learn copywriting, You could also learn how to talk better. You could learn how to communicate with people better. You could learn how to listen better. Energy, I think, is a harder thing to figure out how to produce. I'm sure, I'm not a psychologist. There probably are ways to work on that, or to figure out what's causing a lack of energy, right? So like it could be a lot of people have energy that is not allowed to be released for other reasons. Maybe there's anxiety, maybe there's depression. So I think it's, instead of like, I would probably say, this is my own I'm not saying that this is like an empirically backed up idea, but this is my own personal feeling. Is I would say that like the natural starting point of people in general is to want to accomplish, is to want to be productive, is to want to produce, it's to want to be successful. There's a lot of energy in the human being, and over the course of a person's life, there are probably a lot of experiences that diminish that level of excitement and diminish that level of energy, right? There's bad, and you have enough bad experiences and enough trauma, then you get beat down enough times, enough catastrophe, and it's very hard to see life as the same way again. So I would say if a person feels that they're lacking the energy and they're lacking the willpower and the determination and the courage to do the things they want to do, it's not to figure out, the best approach is not to try to figure out, courage or energy training. It's more to try to figure out what are the symptoms that are causing you to not have that natural energy anymore, or in the first place.
I definitely think that you have the kind of entrepreneurial trait of being just extremely self-aware, because most people might not be able to identify, they might have these blind spots and they might not be able to identify, oh, I'm a bit weak on the presentation front. That's something I need to work on, and I can work on it. So in a sense, that's almost a mindset, it sounds like, that you've kind of had, where you think, okay, I can learn this. Okay, I can learn this. And it's interesting because I watch your videos, and I think you come across as incredibly natural, incredibly, charismatic. And it would be, I guess it might be a bit strange, because let's say if someone's watched your video and they're expecting you to be very outgoing and loud and energetic, and then they meet you and maybe you're not quite as energetic or not quite presenting yourself in the same way, they might, there might just be a bit of a disconnect. So I think it's incredibly self-aware of you to know that, okay, these are the things that I'm working on. And in terms of energy, I agree with everything you said. I think lack of energy can be sometimes due to lack of passion. If you're not happy with your life in some aspect, you've got anxiety or depression, or you're not super, you don't have a direction, you don't really have goals, or you're not really thinking, okay, you're not really striving for something more. I find that when I speak to people, if they're in that sort of place, they can almost turn inwards a little bit. And sometimes people can have all those things, and then actually it's just a matter of the way they present their body language. There's no intonation in their voice, or there's no excitement in their voice, there's no facial expressions. And sometimes, again, this can be things that we're not really aware of.
That took a lot. I totally agree with that. And what people don't realize is, let's say if you look at my Udemy promo videos, or you look at just the introductions to my course lectures, I'm excited and I have that inflection. That did not come naturally. I spent months overnight in a 1-bedroom apartment, set up the whole thing into a studio. My wife was sleeping, I was making noise, doing 100 takes, 100 takes of this video, and then watching it, and then asking people for feedback, and asking people to criticize it, and then watching it again myself, and then doing another take and another take, 100 takes. So when a person sees the final product, and this is how it is in every business, when you interact with anybody who's doing anything well, you don't see people have this weird bias where you tend to assume that people's success. I'm not saying that this is what you're doing. I think we all do this. You tend to assume that somebody else's success came naturally to them, and I just remind me of a funny story. It came naturally to them, and it's harder for them to do the same thing. I did, and just on this point, I just remembered a story. A couple years ago, I was sitting on the beach with somebody, and they were trying to lose weight, right? So I watch what I eat. I'm not naturally thin or anything like that, but I do watch what I eat. I try to exercise a little bit. So the person I was with was overweight, trying to lose weight, and we had a bag of potato chips, and like he was just eating the bag of potato chips and I wasn't eating the potato chips. And he said to me, he's like, it's easy for you because like you just don't know what it's like to love potato chips as much as I do. And I was like, no, that's not true. I love potato chips. I'm fantasizing about the potato chips. I love them. It's just as hard for me. Like and like I think it's the same idea. Like you have this bias, but like if you were to see all the work that goes into it, that went into it, and how bad the original results were, I think it would then perhaps be inspiring because, okay, you were just as bad as I am. You decided to put in the hard work or like whatever. And that sort of goes back to the last point of like, for a lot of people, the reason why they're not successful is because it's too difficult to put in the hard work. It's just too overwhelming. So you have to figure out what's preventing that, and how do you develop that sense of energy, or how do you get that sense of energy back? And you'll go through the same progression. And I'm definitely not saying that everyone is equally as capable, right? That's not the case. So there's real variability in the world of skills, and abilities and intelligence, and that's 100% the case. So like, not everyone could go and start Amazon, and not everyone could be a world famous guitarist or whatever it is, right? There's a lot of or an athlete, but I would say that most people could probably do a lot better than they think they can, or that they are currently doing, if they were able to put in that level of commitment and hard work into it.
And I think that's really inspiring, hearing all of that from you, but hearing that that when you were filming some of these videos, that you were in a small 1-bedroom apartment, your wife asleep in the other room, and you'd set it up into a studio. To me, that really exemplifies this: I'm not making any excuses. If I need to do this, I'll get it done. And it actually reminds me, I mean, this sounds a bit egotistical, but it reminds me of when I started one of my YouTube channels 7 years ago. I did exactly the same thing. It was crazy. I didn't have much equipment. I couldn't afford much equipment at the time. I was living at home, actually, so I was in my mum's apartment, but I was starting this business, and I had to record videos. I had to push content out there. I had to start giving value. I had to start building my brand, and I didn't really let any excuses of, I don't have the perfect studio, I don't have the perfect camera equipment, it's too noisy outside, or okay, I don't know how to do this, I'm going to learn in the process. Okay, I didn't like that take. Okay, do it again. Okay, I didn't quite like how I present myself in this. For the next video, I'm going to write those lessons down and I'm going to learn from them. So I think that's really, really inspiring for people to hear, that like you really hustled, you made no excuses there, and that you kept working on it, and people.
Right, and I didn't really listen. Like, I think it's important for everyone to recognize the help they got along the way. Like, no one makes it on their own, and I certainly got a lot of help in the sense of encouragement. And I was in, like, my wife had a job, and I had 6 months, to get by on my wife's paycheck alone, even though it was a very small paycheck, without having to bring home money. And like, that's not something which is necessarily a given for a lot of people. So there's that. So there you need to have I think everyone has to have a very strong and clear recognition for the opportunities that they've had and the people who have helped them along the way. But it's not like I didn't come from money. I wasn't given any investments. I never borrowed any money to run the business. I never took a penny of debt. But what I didn't do was complain. Like, that's sort of another sort of social concept, where you see culturally now young people will be more likely to complain about things being done to them than themselves doing things to help themselves. And that's a very, very poisonous and very bad attitude to have if you want to be successful. Like, if you want to work at a cash register, then by all means, you could spend your life complaining about all the opportunities you weren't given and how unfair the world is. But ultimately, that, there's no one that's going to come knocking on your door and say, okay, we're sorry for all this, this catastrophe you've experienced. Here's a 6-figure job, right? That's not going to happen. It's very competitive. And the people who make it happen for themselves, like they have to really make it happen. And every ounce of, and this is my own opinion, obviously, every ounce of mental energy someone spends complaining about the injustice of the world and the opportunities that they weren't given would be much better spent. That energy would be much better spent thinking about how they could make something happen for themselves.
And also, I mean, again, another really good point. And I think it's important to realize that if you complain as well, you alienate the very people that you need in your life the most. And that's, the
Sure. Yeah. No one likes to hear you complaining. People have their own issues to deal
exactly,
with.
everyone has struggle in some way, shape, or form. They're not always presenting it to the world or making a big deal out of it. Even, like, and you kind of made this point earlier, that the highest performers, the really successful people, they are struggling more than the person that's potentially working on the cash register, but they're just not complaining about it. They're getting on with the important things and directing their energy in a different way. Um, and just again, to kind of take a little bit of a sidestep, you made a good point about giving credit where credit is due. Is there anyone, or let me rephrase that, who would you recommend for people to dig into? Let's say they're just starting to build a business. Is there any, like, very influential, I guess, people or mentors that you followed, or books that you read, or sources of material that you would suggest they digest, to kind of help them start their journey? What are the key, I guess, few pieces of, yeah, information?
I'm happy you asked that question because I'm actually in the middle or towards the end of reading a really, really good book that I want to recommend. And that book is called Principles by Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio is one of the most successful hedge fund managers. He's CEO, founder of, I'm not sure, I don't think he's the CEO anymore, but he's the founder of Bridgewater Capital. And he writes a book all about work principles and life principles and a lot of common sense ideas, but put together very, very clearly, very, very succinctly. So I highly, highly recommend that book when it comes to like practical, very clear to understand principles for working, principles for life. He talks about open-mindedness, transparency, the ability to learn from others, the process of failure, how to get back up, how to make good decisions, how to communicate and argue effectively and truthfully. Really, really, really good book. So I can't recommend that book highly enough. And then the second book I would strongly recommend, I'm sure many of these listeners have heard of the book, but it's 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson's a Canadian psychologist. He has a lot of YouTube videos about, he brings out psychological ideas from the Bible stories. And his book, 12 Rules for Life, is a very compelling and strong and inspiring handbook for picking yourself up and treating yourself with the level of respect that you deserve, and finding the courage and the motivation and the determination to really be successful and to, tap into as much of your own intrinsic value and potential as possible. So I think that's a very, very good book to read. And as a side point, Jordan Peterson actually used to be a client of mine about 4 years ago. This was before he was as well known as he is today, because it was before he wrote the book. But we used to speak on the phone once a week. I mean, nothing deep, just about the AdWords campaigns. But yeah, those are two books that could really change somebody's life.
Very cool. I'm a big fan of Principles. I had the audiobook. I have to admit I haven't finished it, but it's definitely a book that I used to listen to that on my commute into central London every day, and it was very, very just super inspiring and like really solid fundamental sound advice, like really, really great solid advice. Jordan Peterson, I haven't read his book, but I'm a big fan of him. He's definitely taken like a lot of flack. I recently saw actually something pop up in my inbox about he was meant to come to Cambridge, and they cancelled his, some. I don't really want to get into the politics behind it, but I think it's such a shame that we, the platform for ideas and discussing and debating different kinds of ideas is being shut down because we as humanity, and we lose out essentially from not having different kinds of people come and talk. If we don't agree with someone, it doesn't mean we can't listen to what they have to say, and we can't try and understand their ideas. But Jordan Peterson's actually someone that I agree with a lot of his ideas, but it's just a shame.
Yeah, and like I've listened to a ton of his stuff, and like I don't think you could find I have not heard a single sentence or word that could be misconstrued as anything but positive, and giving people a lot of encouragement and hope and like motivation, respect. But listen, we live in a crazy world. Everyone has their own ideas, and everyone's entitled to have their own ideas, and it is what it is.
And just as we wrap up now, because I did find your art website, and I was like, wow, he's also an artist. I don't understand how he has the time to do this. But how's that going now? Is that still something you're passionate about? Are you still selling your art? Are you still painting?
That's a good question. I am passionate about it. Unfortunately, over the last couple of years, I have not had enough time to really put the energy into my artwork as I should. I used to paint in the office that I ended up turning into our first office. So that was the end of that studio. But I really would like to get back into it. It's a really good outlet for me. But now, I have a son. I have another baby on the way, and I have the business, and I have courses, and I'm not making excuses. Like, I don't want anyone to think I'm making excuses. But in my fair defense, I do have quite a bit on my plate. But I'm happy you brought that up, because it'll help me motivate myself to get back into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, and you can speak to this more than I can, but in a way, like, I'm sure a lot of the stuff that you're doing, you get to fulfill some of your creative, I guess, zest, and you get to put together creative campaigns. I mean, you were just talking about billboards that you'd been designing for a client. I mean, in some way that's I guess it's not going to be exactly the same as painting, but in some ways, I guess you're fulfilling some of that creative energy and putting that out there. Maybe not in the same way, but
yeah, that's true. It's slightly different. It's a slightly different dynamic, but there is a lot of creative output. There is a lot of creativity in what we do, and there definitely is that. But there's a special, like, when you're there's nothing that will destroy the feeling of your own creative expression than having to please clients. So when you're with a canvas and you're with your painting and you're alone and listening to music, there is a very special quality about that, which the business cannot really reproduce. So I'm hoping to be able to get back into that at some point.
Perfect. Well, Isaac, I know that we're limited on time a bit here, and I really appreciate talking to you. I mean, I've definitely learned from this conversation, and I'm sure all the listeners have learned as well. Where can people find out more about you if they want to work with you, if they want to follow you? Where's the best place for them to do that?
Sure. So our website is adventureppc.com, adventureppc.com. That's our agency website. If you want to interact in my Facebook group, you could search Facebook for Isaac Rudansky's Digital Advertising Superstars. I'm somewhat active on Twitter at Isaac Rudansky. And that's it. Just search for me on Google. You'll find, different things I'm working on.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you very much, Isaac.
Thank you. I really appreciate the interview. This was a really interesting discussion, very insightful, and it was a lot of fun. I appreciate the invite.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go over to iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify, subscribe to us. If you think we deserve a 5-star rating, then please leave us a rating. We also have exclusive show notes and bonus content over at whosgoingtostopme.com, so I highly recommend you check that out. For daily lessons and nuggets of advice, please head over to our Instagram at StopMePodcast. Until next time.